Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Bill Barnwell at ESPN.com has a piece up where he looks at the top 10 free agents in the NFL, talks about why they're available, why they should be signed, and by his estimation, the best fit for each free agent. And among them is Odell Beckham. He also mentions Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jamal Adams. It says Clyde to Buffalo. I thought that was interesting. But Odell, he writes, the best fit for Odell Beckham, the New Orleans Saints. I'll read you the quick write-up as to why he says New Orleans. Bill Barnwell writes, call me a romantic, but getting Beckham back home would be a natural way for the former LSU star to wind down his NFL career. The Saints have a need for a second wideout after releasing Michael Thomas. Rashid Shaheed will take more snaps as the team's designated deep threat, and Cedric Wilson is in town after disappointing over the last 2 years in Miami. But Beckham would fit in as a part of the rotating cast behind third-year star Chris Olave, especially if the price tag is about half what it was for the Ravens a year ago. So let's start there with the price tag. Odell did not play in the NFL in 2022. Remember, he tore his ACL at the end in the Super Bowl with the Rams, missed the entire 2022 season, and then came back with Baltimore in 2023. He signed a one-year, $15 million deal with Baltimore this past year. And he had a good bounce-back season. He was not the guy that they were counting on to be the front of the rotation guy, but Odell had 35 catches for 565, 3 scores, averaged 16 yards a catch. That is a more than respectable number 2 or 3, depending on the offense. Now, $15 million is a steep price to pay for 35 catches, and I don't think the Saints would offer him a $15 million deal, but as Bill says, what about half that price? Now, we're interested. So I got a piece of paper, and I did pros and cons. So I'll run through, because the easiest thing to do would be what Bill said there. To be a romantic and say, Odell's from New Orleans, he played at LSU, bring him home. Same thing with Jarvis, and with Tyron, and with Foster Moreau. And remember, last year, they signed Trey Turner as well, but he got injured in the preseason and never got to play. But we've seen this. We've seen the Saints sign these LSU guys, these Louisiana guys, and bring them home. And there's this emotional part of that makes us all receptive to it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best or right thing to do. So I try to look at it somewhat objectively. So here's the pros. Number one, obviously, he's from New Orleans. It would be a fan favorite sentimentality. I think that has to be on or at the top of the list. Jarvis, Tyron, Foster, all those guys. Trey Turner, yes, that's a pro. This would be adding a veteran wide receiver to a young room. Chris Olave, still just a third-year player. Rashid Shaheed is a young pro as well. You added Cedric Wilson, who's in his late 20s. He's been around the league a little bit, but that's a veteran guy. But this would be certainly a more accomplished player, and adding someone like Odell with Michael Thomas exiting. The affordability would have to be a pro. I'm assuming that Bill Barnwell would be right here in what the market value would hold for Odell. If it's roughly half the price of what Baltimore paid a year ago, 1 year, $7 million around there. It's about what you paid for Willie Gay on a 1-year deal. Now, Willie Gay's in his mid-20s. Odell's 31. So it's a little different there, but it's still just a 1-year deal. There would be an affordability. I also think if you brought Odell in, there would be minimum expectations. You're not bringing Odell Beckham in to be your number 1 receiver. You're bringing him in to be your 2 or 3, also keeping in mind this is an offense where you target the running backs. And I get it. It's a different offense now, but think of Clint Kubiak in San Francisco with Christian McCaffrey and the amount of times they threw him the football. They also make use of the tight end. Now, you had George Kittle in San Francisco, so you got to fix that in New Orleans or find that in New Orleans. But you wouldn't be saying, Odell, I need 100 catches. So there's a difference there in what the expectation is, and certainly a difference at 31 years old with the history of injuries that have plagued his career of what Odell's ceiling could be. And I also look and I say, I'm not sure there's a better option in free agency right now. The one guy, and he's a very different player stylistically, but the one guy I could mention would be Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow was with Derek Carr, with the Raiders in Las Vegas, and that's something we've seen, that pipeline from Oakland, from Foster Moreau and Brian Edwards and Jonathan Abram coming along with Derek Carr a year ago. So that's something that the Saints have done. They've gone and they've signed Carr's teammates with the Raiders, and Hunter Renfrow could be that option. But aside from that, I'm not sure there's a really great veteran receiver option in free agency that would make a lot of sense. So there's a long list of pros. The cons, though, would give me pause, of course. Number one, how much does Odell have left in the tank? He's 31 years old. He'll be 32 before the end of next season. And he missed the entire 2022 season. Of course, there was the ankle injury. There was the ankle sprain, which begot the ankle fracture. Then he gets traded to the Browns, makes his way to the Rams. He has the torn ACL. He misses all of 2022. A guy who had a dominant 3-year run to start his career has just seen his production drop off dramatically because of injury. So how much does Odell at 31, almost 32, have left in the tank? It is fair to ask about how he would fit in the locker room. In the same way that Michael Thomas became a problem on this team, would Odell be the same thing? And if you're working on rebuilding culture, is bringing in a guy who has not had the best reputation of being a team-first guy, whether that's fair or unfair. I said reputation. Again, whether that's fair or unfair, I said reputation. I mean, we had Odell Sr. going on social media teeing off on Baker Mayfield. That's not exactly the best way to build culture around an organization. And the other part of that, maybe these are hand in hand, is Derek Carr isn't exactly the strongest leader. I mean, he called out guys during games, from his fighting with Eric McCoy, Michael Thomas calling him out on social media, going after Chris Olave, not taking blame for the interception against the Falcons. Like, Derek Carr isn't exactly the guy that stands up and you think, man, that's the guy I'm just going to line up behind. He doesn't give that vibe. Well, we saw Odell not jive with Baker Mayfield. On the flip side of it, whenever he was in L.A. with Matthew Stafford, that was a good match. This year in Baltimore, where Lamar Jackson is the alpha, the dude, the MVP, Odell was a good citizen. Would he fit with Derek Carr? I don't know that, and that gives me pause because I don't think Derek Carr is the strongest leader. So when I look at potential role, potential cost, amount of productivity, there's a lot of things that make sense, but what might make more sense is to say, in a draft where this is such a deep draft, y'all. Like, I was looking at PFF today and their ranking of the receivers in this draft. They ranked the top 10. Keon Coleman wasn't even in the top 10. What if Keon Coleman's sitting on the board in round 3? Let me ask you, would you rather rookie third-round pick Keon Coleman on a rookie deal, or a guy like Jermaine Burton out of Alabama, who played at Georgia and Bama, on a rookie deal, or 31-year-old Odell Beckham on a 1-year contract? Like, tugging on my heartstrings, the answer is Odell. Practically, in a deep receiver draft like this, you can package some of those fifth-round picks and steal a talented receiver in round 3 this year. And that would be my preference, is not to sign a veteran like Odell or Hunter Renfrow. Go steal a rookie in this draft. And maybe what it comes to is after the draft, if that doesn't manifest, maybe Odell or Renfrow or one of these veteran guys are still out there. Remember, it was very late in the process before Odell signed with Baltimore last year. I just don't think you need to be in any rush. This is one where I can say, be patient, wait till after the draft, and let the chips fall where they may. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.